land of my birth. Haruna, you give me the sweetest vibe. Haruna, it's the best times of my life. Haruna, Haruna, land of my birth. Haruna, you give me the sweetest vibe. Haruna, it's the best times of my life. Haruna, Haruna, land of my birth.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Activated Mornings is back. Dianna and Roleza playing songs on the track. Hey, I don't have any more words to make a rhyme, but that's okay because we have the time. Hey, da 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 da. Hey.
You should be proud of that last one. That last one, yeah, you come good.
I am. Joshua, are you proud of me? I know you are. Oh, wow. We are back. Yes. You know, we won't just leave you hanging. Of course not. We're always going to come back. And we are here. Another session of our Activated Mornings. And before we go into the topic, I got to ask you a question. I'm just trying to get you in the independence spirit, so we could build up. So when independence gets here, we bang, we're ready for it. What is our national flower? Your children doing this in school, your grandchildren doing this in school, and you just want them to do well in the work. So you better know the answer too as the older generation. You better tell me this morning. What is our national flower? Okay. And the next question, I can't give you one alone. So the national flower and the national let me see which one I want to give you. It'll come to me. When it comes to me, I can let you know. But for now, we're gonna work on that. What's the name of our national flower? And then we'll come around to the rest soon, right? I can't remember the other things to ask you. But we coming down. And in our topic, as we move on, we're gonna be discussing the issue where a Searchlight journalist was threatened. You may have heard it, you may not have heard it, but a journalist from Searchlight was threatened. So I am going to read from something from Searchlight because I want us to get the facts. I want us to make sure that we have the information that is necessary. So Searchlight reported earlier this week, which was last week, the newspaper had occasion to lodge a report with law enforcement consequent upon a threat issued via WhatsApp to one of our reporters. We condemn in the strongest terms any threat or threats issued to our reporters or members of staff, and we will ensure they are reported to the police. Our reporters make every effort to ensure. So this is the statement that Searchlight released after the threat. Okay. Our reporters make every effort to ensure that their reports on events and about people across our multi-island state are fair and factual. At times, the content of the information being reported may be upsetting to individuals. However, as a people, when we feel we have been wronged, our default response should never be violence or the threat of violence. There are many acceptable ways to raise objections, and issuing threats is not one of them. And why did Searchlight release that statement? Because a journalist from Searchlight was threatened, as I just read, through WhatsApp, as it relates to the incident where the report, where the child died, the 10-year-old child died in Glen. You have that article there, Roleza?
I don't have it.
I was trying to get it, but the internet is not allowing. It's not going into the thing. But anyways, there was a threat issued to a reporter, Searchlight journalist, were about an article they wrote concerning the incident where the child died. The 10-year-old child died at Glen. Apparently, I don't want to say anything that is not correct. I want to quote directly. I don't want to summarize anything here, but I'm not able to pull the thing for you at this moment. But it's on
All right,
Searchlight's
so
page.
on
Okay.
Tuesday, so I'm reading from the Searchlight article. This came out, I think, last Friday, and last Friday's edition. So on Tuesday, September 17, 2024, Searchlight published an article in relation to Small's death, which is the child's death. And on Wednesday, September 18th, a reporter with the paper started receiving threatening messages and voice notes via WhatsApp from a man who claims to be the child's father. Right. So I won't go into detail because it's you've figured it out, right? So while the man did not state over which part of the article he was upset, he had several things to say. Right. In another voice note, 28 seconds long in, he also continues making statements such as how could the police tell them this, what the police really know, etc., right? Coming down to the end of the article, over the years, persons have been charged by the police for threatening media personnel, which is a problem that constantly rears its head from members of the public. In July 2018, a woman of Layou was reprimanded and discharged after being found guilty of threatening the life of Searchlight reporter, while in December 2018, a man in Camden Park was fined for assaulting journalist Kenton Chant. All right. It does go on to say that a letter was copied to the Minister of National Security. So let me backtrack a little bit, right? In February 2023, then editor of Searchlight, Claire Keyser, journalist Kenton Chant, executive editor of Eyewitness News, as well as Hayden Huggins, a freelance court reporter with the Vincentian newspaper, along with Kamali Durant, a then court reporter with Searchlight, signed a letter which was sent to Commissioner of Police at the time, Colin John. All right. And it's really and truly was talking about the contents of the letter dealt with issuing of threats, specifically by accused individuals charged with various offenses over the news outlets were reporting or on which they had reported. All right. So one of the things, so just to have the discussion in relation to this topic is, I find that when it relates to topics or matters that address us either directly or persons who we know, then we become very sensitive, and then we do not want for members of the public to know what is happening,
so true.
right?
So true.
I tend to find that when it's information that's related to other people, it's fine, right? You would take a story, you would share a story,
correct.
you would then have different things to say. But when it does end up hitting home, and then we have to ask ourselves the question, and we also have to, and this is why I say that at any point in time, any one of us can become the news, right? All it takes is for us to just do something incorrect, for us to act inappropriately, for us to have misguided judgment. It doesn't matter what it is, especially in this area of technology where persons are just quickly able to take out a phone, right? Record you. And this is why part of that situation happened recently at the hospital with the nurses, with the nurse and the nursing aide or the ward assistants who had gotten into the fight. Kind of got me upset, because was it something that needed to be recorded, and was it something that needed to be shared? Right? Persons are then passing all sorts of opinions and comments on both individuals without knowing what is happening or what sparked it or what spurred it, right? But the thing of it is that persons need to realize that at any point in time, any one of us can become the news.
Correct.
And what it is that we're just hoping, our hope would then be that whatever is reported is actually factual, right? Of course, now we cannot stop persons from having their opinions, because people are always going to have their opinions. But it should never come down to a point where something has been reported. For the most part, it is factual. And you then pick a bad because of the fact that you have now become this week's news or today's news.
Yes. You said something there so very true that I also have observed, where persons, it's okay when everybody else is in the news, but when it's somebody for us, when it hits home, all of a sudden we are outraged and we have excuses to make. You would see people in the comments say, oh, but such and such is the case, and you never know the situation and all of that. While we are aware that those things exist, there is this thing where when it's home to me, then it becomes a problem, when it is reported. and we have to get away from that. I could understand if if Searchlight reported on the information that they got. So I can understand if the man is saying, whoever gave you this information, this particular piece of information, this ain't it, that's not how it go. I can understand you getting upset by that, but it is not okay. It is not okay to threaten the journalists. It's not okay to send threats to people like that. You would have to find some other way of dealing with your anger. You could have gone into this the office, the Searchlight office, perhaps, and say you could have make noise in there. Honestly, I'm not gonna say don't make noise if you're upset, because you know some people tend to do that when they are upset. If you want to make noise, you could go to Searchlight office and you and them could discuss whatever you need to discuss there, or any other outlet for that matter, right? But to threaten people, let's not do that. That's not okay. It's not okay to threaten people's lives just because they say something or do something that we don't really appreciate. I mean, we're talking about the crime and violence situation in the country, and I don't think that anybody likes the crime and violence situation in the country. If you like it, then that. But you know, nobody likes the crime and violence situation. So let us not add to it by, you know, making threats like this, you know, where we're gonna add to the situation, or potentially add to the situation. We have to find better ways of dealing with things. People need to understand that journalists, persons tend to lash out at journalists a lot. And I have to say kudos to the journalists. You know, you guys all your back broad. You know, I really have to say kudos to them, because boy, let us get plenty licks, because a lot of persons don't understand reporting. They don't understand journalism and so on. And that's going to go on for a while, unfortunately. We just have to continue to educate and just hope that as time goes by, people would learn more, and these negative reactions would be less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and I do understand where maybe when you're going through whatever it is you're going through, the first thing that you don't want to have happen is somebody questioning you, right? I can totally appreciate that. But you can also express that by stating, I do not wish to comment at this particular time, right? In the case of the father who made, or the alleged purported father who made the threatening comments. So I had to go back, because initially I couldn't understand what about the story
was upsetting.
right? Because if you're just reporting that it's alleged that it may have been a gas leak, I mean, there wasn't anything in it for me to see, for him to be so annoyed. But what persons are saying is coming down to the end of the story, the initial story, what was said by the neighbor, or by a neighbor, or whoever it is chose to become anonymous. But even with that, you have the opportunity, even if you're not happy with what was printed, and I'm saying you in terms of the context of the gentleman, right? But this is just for us generally. Let's in a case where something is printed or something is published and we're not happy with it, use that same method or that same medium to be able to get the correct message, or your version of what the correct message is. Right? Threatening somebody is not going to help you, because it does end up painting a picture of maybe you're a hothead, maybe you don't know how to control your anger and your emotions. And on top of that, this would be reported to the police, because should something happen to said reporter at maybe directly after or not too long after, you might end up the person threatening could be picked up for questioning because of the timing.
Yep.
You know, so even if we're not happy with what is reported, use the same medium to be able to get your version of the correct information out, right? The threatening language. And as Dianna said, I personally don't think that I could have ever been a reporter, even though one time I did do a little course for it. But I don't think I could have done it, because as I said before, when we are the ones who become the news, we do not want to have any information out there about us, right? And I cannot understand, because even, I mean, that situation with Kenton and Mr. Maxman over the weekend, that video, it was funny, right? So big up to Kenton and big up to Mr. Maxman, because it was funny. And I mean, at the time, I did not know it was him who had called in on the program, right? But the thing too is that, you know, so we always attacking. We were saying, why is this being reported? How is this news? Our biggest question is, how is this news? Yet we sit down and we read the full article. Right? We still really asking, we still come in the comment section to give our thoughts and opinions, but still we asking, how is this news? You know, so I think people also need to be able to pick and choose what it is that you're actually going to work up yourself over and get annoyed with. You know, so journalists have a job to do.
Exactly.
If they don't report on the good, the bad, the indifferent, how are we going to be knowledgeable of anything at all? Right? How are we going to know of anything that is happening? You can pick and choose whether or not you probably like this journalist style of writing. If the content is generally what you don't appreciate, find another source for your information. You know, just find another source. So, you know, we just need to be a little bit more mindful. We have to respect the fact that they are doing their jobs. I want to believe that most are doing it to the best of their ability. And, you know, I mean, it's not always going to be a case where we are going to always be on our P's and Q's, especially when we're in the public domain. We, as I said, we never know when any one of us can become tomorrow's news headlines. If you did something wrong and you're guilty, just accept your guilt and face the consequences of the action and try to move on. And then people will just, you know, a lot of things are just 9 days talk. I mean, some people bring it back up and throw it in your face, but many things are also just 9 days talks, you know? So, yeah.
Let's work on our reactions at times. You know, we live in a world where not everybody is going to listen. If you live in a place and everything that everybody does pleases you, I don't know if you are a phantom or they are the phantom, because it's not going to happen, right? You know, things are not always going to be pleasing to you. We just have to find a way to deal with it. Laugh it off. Do like me, just laugh. Laughter is the best medicine, they say. Just laugh things off, because sometimes, you know, that's all you gotta do. Just smile and say, we just move beyond this, right?
Or tomorrow is another day and tomorrow will be a better day, right? Because we're not always going to have the best of days every single day. So, all right. So teacher Dianna asked the question this morning, and there were several responses.
Let's
see.
The
national flower is the suffrage tree. That's
lovely.
One person.
So that is clap for you.
And Anne actually came in before her, and she said the name of the national flower is the suffrage tree.
Big up yourself, big up yourself, big up yourself.
The letter S, but I can't remember it.
That must be the scientific name here, and me not a scientific name, and for nothing.
All right.
We go with the normal, the non-scientific name.
All right. So, could you send me a picture of what the national wear costume is? I remember this, but I also remember the conversations that followed this. But then we leave that alone. All right. Okay.
That's it. So all those who answered, wonderful. You are correct. The national flower of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the suffrage tree. It is time for us to jump right out of here and jump into something else.